Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. This season kicks off on Friday evening with Man United versus Fulham and I can't wait for the Premier League to be back. In this video we're going to look at my latest and most likely the draft I'll be going with for game week 1. There are some absolute gems in this draft, so stick around to find out who makes the team. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content all the way through the season and comment down below who's made your FPL team this year. Gone with Henderson in goal for Crystal Palace. I think he's the number one choice over Johnston, who may possibly even be leaving. Johnston seemed to be in favour last year over Henderson at the start of the season, but once he got injured, Henderson went in and really never came out. He's also started the past 3 pre-season games and Johnston hasn't even been on the bench for the past 2. Crystal Palace were one of the best defences last year as well. They only conceded more goals than City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Everton across the season. I have looked at other 4.5 options like Flecken, but the fixtures just don't seem to be as good as Crystal Palace's. Speaking of Brentford, I have gone for their substitute keeper, Valdemarson, as a second backup to Henderson. He just seems the most likely of any of the 4 million goalkeepers to actually nick the starting spot, although I still think that's unlikely. I also looked into Nottingham Forest's first few fixtures and they have some really nice games, but we don't know who's going to be the starting goalkeeper. It's probably going to be Sells, but we don't know if it's going to be Miguel, so you'd be guessing. The only other possibility I thought about was putting Raya and Munoz in for Henderson and Saliba. That way you're still covering the Arsenal defence and it costs exactly the same price. You are more likely to get more clean sheets with Raya, but with Henderson you're more likely to get more save points. Crystal Palace do actually face quite a lot of shots, but they do also keep a lot of clean sheets, so those points will just add up. In defence, I've started with Mykolenko. Everton are another great defence, and at 4.5, he's the cheapest way into it, with Branthwaite and Tarkowski's rise to 5. It doesn't look like Everton are going to have Branthwaite at the start of the season, though. He's just had an operation, so that could weaken their defence quite a lot. He's just a really solid option that rotates well with Barco and Robinson, who I have on the bench. Trent's been in the team from pretty much day one. I just can't look away from Liverpool's start. They've got such easy fixtures at the start of the season, and he is quite easily the best attacking defender you have in the game. I know he's the most expensive defender, but he's actually the cheapest he's been in 5 seasons at 7 million, and if you can afford him, he's just a no-brainer. I've gone with Saliba as my Arsenal cover. And I've actually seen quite a lot of teams not go with any Arsenal defenders whatsoever, which I think is a huge risk. I think the fixtures are putting people off, but at some point they will want them. Even though the fixtures aren't the easiest, I can still see 2 or 3 clean sheets in there. Arsenal just look so commanding and composed on the ball, and they just aren't giving chances away at all. I think I'm probably playing this one a bit safe because he is the most nailed, but he's also the least attacking. Although he did score in pre-season. But then again, so did Gabriel, and his attacking data far exceeds Saliba's. I think I'm probably just a little bit nervous about starting with Gabriel because of the trauma of last season when Mikel Arteta decided not to play him. It's looking likely he will start though, with the new transfers still acclimatising to the team. So there might be a little bit of toing and froing between Saliba and Gabriel up until Friday. On the bench for game week 1 I'll have Barco. I think he's the best of the £4 million defenders. He's had a good pre-season as well. He's been on some set pieces. He should be starting while Estupiñán is out, at least for the first 3 weeks, and hopefully he might even hold his place when he's back. He is the highest owned £4 million defender though, so let's hope he does have a good start and doesn't drop in price. Robinson's also on the bench for game week 1 as they play Man United, but he does love to get forward and his goal involvement is great. He got 6 assists last season. Again, he's good rotation with the 2 other cheaper defenders, and he has Leicester and Ipswich in game weeks 3 and 4, which I'm sure I'll put him in for. One thing that I will keep an eye on is now the fact that Paulinho's gone to Bayern Munich, how sure at the back Fulham actually are. I'm not sure if there's going to be a drop-off. Paulinho was a pretty important player for them. Jota's made his way into the game week 1 team, mainly because of the Liverpool fixtures, as I said when I spoke about Trent. They started with Ipswich. That could be a goal fest. It seems like a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction because realistically most people are just putting him in now because of the one game he had in pre-season where he looked really good. and there's so much competition for places in that Liverpool front line. There is a possibility that he might only play 60 minutes or not even start. But when he plays, he's an absolute points magnet. He's one of those players that's really good for short bursts in the season and gets quite a lot of points in a small amount of time. So if you're like me and you've got him in your game week 1 team, you're kind of hoping one of those short bursts comes at the start of the season. You've got to weigh up the risk and reward in fantasy. You can't always play it completely safe. If it doesn't pay off, you can just reevaluate and look to put another player in, including anyone from Liverpool, apart from Salah. Despite the first game being against Man City, I've got Nkunku in for game week 1. The rest of the fixtures after game week 1 are just outstanding for Chelsea. I think he's the most underpriced asset in the whole game at 6.5 million. I think he could quite easily be just as good or even outscore Palmer this season, and for 4 million less, again, it's a no-brainer for me. He's shown good form in pre-season as well, but he has said that his main aim of the season is actually to stay fit. He's not actually setting any targets. Take from that what you will. We all know how massive Chelsea's squad is as well, and there's lots of players that can play in and around that position in midfield. Dewsbury Hall, they've just signed Neto as well. Sterling, and they're also looking at signing Osimhen. I know they're not all direct comparisons to Nkunku, but you can't fit everyone in. LA at 7 million I think is a bargain as well. I think he's Palace's talisman, and more than likely everything attacking wise is going to be going through him this season, especially as Elise's obviously left now. He should be on penalties as well, and hopefully he just picks up where he left off from the end of last season. Now you may have noticed that somebody's missing, but we'll get onto that a bit later, because my last midfielder for game week 1 is Saka. Now, he's a pretty popular pick despite the tougher fixtures, and I think that's absolutely right. Saka's the kind of player you just don't look at fixtures at all. He could score against anybody, he could get a haul against anybody. It's really just down to on the day. And he's been one of the best assets in FPL for the past couple of seasons. I mean, he's had double-digit goals and assists the past 2 seasons, both 200 points plus. He's definitely on penalties as well. He's absolutely nailed on that right-hand side as well, unlike the left-hand side of the Arsenal attack, where there's a bit of change that often happens between Martinelli and Trossard. He wasn't in my first draft, my first team. I actually started with Haaland and Salah, but I just couldn't go without Saka. Again, on the bench, we've got Smith Rowe, now plays for Fulham. They've got Man United in the first game. I think this move to Fulham could reignite his career, and he's been scoring in pre-season for them as soon as he's got in the team. I can't see him not being a starting player in that team, and I think I'll probably start him in game weeks 2 and 3 because they've got Leicester and Ipswich. Most, if not all game weeks, this team will be a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. As you can see, game week 1 I've gone 3-4-3 and I'm starting with João Pedro. I think he's a really good enabler at 5.5, one of the best cheap strikers. I'm sure he'll be on penalties as well. Could look at Armstrong at the same price, but I just think that Brighton are a way better team than Southampton, and Armstrong hasn't really shown anything in the Premier League when he's been in it before. He's been in and out of my team because of pre-season. Obviously, he didn't go to Asia for the pre-season tour because he had an injury, but then he's come back and scored in one of their pre-season games. Brighton don't have the easiest start, but he rotates with Smith Rowe quite well. Like I've just said, they've got Leicester and Ipswich in 2 and 3, where Brighton have to play United and Arsenal. So I've gone Haaland over Salah. I think most people are agreeing with me as I'm seeing Haaland's ownership rise and Salah's come down. I think if Liverpool and Man City's fixtures game week 1 were flipped, so Haaland was playing Ipswich game week 1, it wouldn't even be a question. He would be in nearly everyone's team. People at the moment just aren't looking past Salah as the best captain in game week 1, which he obviously is. But if I look at the fixtures after game week 1, I'd be captaining Haaland in 2, 3 and 4. As I said earlier in the video, I did actually start with both, but I think you just have to take so many hits in the midfield and the defence. You'll have to rely on the 6.5 midfielders you put in to perform like the premiums. When I really thought about it as well, I want an attacker from Man City and Liverpool, and the only one I want from Man City is Haaland. There's a lot more options in the Liverpool team, and that's why I've gone with Jota. But you could also look at Szoboszlai, Luis Diaz. We don't know who's going to start, but there are so many more options in that Liverpool attacking line. Not that he was ever going to be benched by Pep, but he is quite literally the only option up front now. They've sold Alvarez. You could reevaluate later on in a few game weeks when you know Foden's going to be back, and seeing how he's performing could change things. It's a lot easier to downgrade from Haaland to another striker than to upgrade to him. For example, if Solanke starts firing at Spurs, he costs 7.5 million. You take Haaland out, you've got another 7.5 million. Then you can take out any single one of your midfielders and put Salah in. And you might even have some change. Last player we've got in my Game Week 1 team is Alexander Isak. I think he's the most essential player in the whole game. He's the most owned. He's absolutely nailed in the Newcastle team up front, and he's so underpriced at 8.5 million as well. They're actually playing Southampton at home Game Week 1, so Isak's actually going to be my captain, I think. 99% sure anyway. Again, he's on penalties. I just think you have to start with him. He usually has his injury troubles sometime throughout the season, but he's fit at the moment and scoring in pre-season, so no-brainer. Been in the team since day one. Now, I'm pretty sure this team is the team I will go into Game Week 1 with. I think probably 11 or 12 of the players are completely locked in, but there might be a few changes. I was looking at the potential of taking João Pedro out and having Bournemouth's Jefferson on the bench. He costs 4.5 million, and obviously Solanke leaving means they've lost some serious firepower up front. Now, I don't think Jefferson will be starting games. I think Semenyo will start up front if they don't sign anyone, but there's a possibility he could be getting some minutes. Really depends on how strong I want my bench to be. So if I take Pedro out and put Jefferson in, that allows me to move from Saliba to Guardiola, but also from Henderson to Raya. So I've still got a cover in the Arsenal defence that I want. Let me know in the comments which one you think's better, whether I should go with the changes or this team in front of you. Right, so that's it. My Game Week 1 team selection. This will be a weekly video throughout the season, but let me know what else you'd like to see. I hope you enjoyed the video and are as buzzing as me for the start of the season. Hopefully this helped you if you had any last minute dilemmas. And please don't forget to like and subscribe for more FPL content throughout the season.